Welcome to another episode of the Business Blumin podcast. We've got an awesome international episode for us today. We've got an awesome guest and an awesome story as usual. He is Yoni Bierig. Yoni, how you doing?
Thanks for having me, Dan. I appreciate it.
So I'm gonna appreciate you coming on. We have a really fun show planned, but you have a lot of exciting stuff going on. Your own company. You're actually doing your little world travels right now. Can you speak? But to get started, can you just speak a little bit about your background?
Yeah, for sure. Well, grew up in the Cherry Hill area outside of Philly. Big sports fan. Huge, huge entrepreneur, I guess, growing up. Always had this sort of like interest in starting something and seeing it through. Always wanted to find ways to connect other people and to connect with other people. Was always a people's person, and so that and sports kind of led me down the path of where I am now. But to get a little bit more into detail, I went to Drexel for college and didn't last long after I guess I sort of reached a point where I realized I knew what I wanted to do and I had already started it and it had gained a little bit of traction. So that's kind of my story and that's my background.
Got it. Grew up in so I think I'm just double checking. We're in the Cherry Hill area, so you're also an outside Philly boy.
Yeah, I mean, sort of. So I went to school in Philadelphia for high school and college. Obviously, Drexel was in Philadelphia, so I have those Philly roots. Lifelong Eagles fan, so I guess Eagles, Sixers, Phillies. Not really so much Sixers, but you know, lifelong Philly fan. I guess being in a place in Jersey where you can't necessarily say. I mean, like when you're in Cherry Hill, like you're not in North Jersey, so you're not near New York. So whenever you say New Jersey, that's where they think. So you have to kind of say Philadelphia because I'm way closer to Philadelphia than I am to New York. So that's kind of where I'm from. But I rep Philadelphia. I rep New Jersey, and I was born in New York, so I guess tri-state area is my where I call home.
Sounds good because I knew from Cherry. I always forget this for people, New York sports fans and like sports fans. So I'm happy to have you on our side. The one thing I was gonna say, no shame about the Sixers. I think a lot of people aren't Sixers fans these days, so we got the birds. Hopefully, we can get it done this year.
Not as much of a fan as I was, I guess, before, but I'm a big Eagles fan. I love the Birds, so and I'm excited. Football starts today, so gotta gotta see what's going on.
No worries, go Birds. We got in the Super Bowl this year. So, awesome to get into that. So before we get into kind of some of your background and what you're up to, right now you're actually in the land. You're in Israel. Can you speak a little bit about your world travels recently?
Yeah. I mean, so every time working in sports and working, in like different seasons, sort of. This is kind of my off season right before NFL, so I decided I wanted to take a trip before it got really hectic for NFL season. And so really what I wanted to do is just like the original plan was genuinely to just go to Italy and then stop in Croatia for 2 days and then go to Israel for a couple days to visit family. But it kind of turned into more of like a backpacking world tour, I guess you can say. So I really took a backpack, so it made it easy for me to really be like agile and like just go wherever. And so what turned into that 3 country trip turned into a 10 country trip. In just like the span of a few days. So like it started off in like Italy. I kind of like drove. I originally didn't have a car, but I got a car and I started to drive across Italy. I'm like, yeah, this is beautiful. And then like this thing in me, like whenever I feel like I'm close to a place, like I was close to France. So whenever I feel like I'm close to a place, I feel like I have to go there. And so I kind of just continued to do that. So I went to France. Then after France, I went to Croatia, and then from Croatia, there's just a bunch of countries surrounding it. And what also turned into I was only going to go to one place turned into 4 different countries. So I ended up going from Croatia to Budapest in Hungary. And then from there, I went to Slovakia, then Slovenia, and then Austria, and then back to Croatia, and now in Israel. So I ended up doing a bunch of countries just through that. But yeah, I mean, listen, I'm a big believer in traveling, seeing the world, seeing different cultures, and kind of just getting a commute, not assimilated, but I would say like just getting familiar with different people and different mindsets. It really opens you up, especially even like to kind of shift it back to like a business perspective. It opens your mind a little bit slightly to just like the way that people manage themselves, like manage their money and handle themselves and speak, and the culture, being a cultured person when you're dealing with like international business is key. Because some people you'll talk to internationally and they don't understand certain cues, and if you don't understand it, there's a disconnect right there. So that can really, you know, cause issues, or not issues, but it may just cause less of a connection between you and that your counterpart. So that's kind of a longer answer to that short question that you asked.
No, no worries. So it's kind of interesting because you have all these like memes of European, especially European venture capital firms, compared to American firms. All the American firms like always strictly in the office, and the European ones are like, I'm out on office on like vacation until the end of the summer. Like, please, like, don't contact me. But not saying that they don't work hard, but I agree with you in the sense that you have to kind of get a vibe for every single culture and what they're up to because not everyone does business the American way or kind of the way we're accustomed to here. So I definitely think it's like it's a key business thing for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to ask really quickly, like, so I know you're kind of traveling turn from a few places to a lot of places. How was it driving through? Was it just like typical road trip that you'd see in America, or like were the views just different in Europe?
Um, I mean the views. I mean, like I drove from Philadelphia to all the way out to like near LA, so I have the experience of driving from one place to another and seeing different places on the way. I wouldn't say that it was so different, other than the gas stations. I mean, it was ridiculous. Like every country has a different gas station protocol. Um, but I think I handled myself pretty well. Like in Croatia, you get the gas first, and then you go into the place to pay. So like theoretically, like someone may not know that and just like go wait or look to where they can pay, but it's just not like that. You can't pay beforehand. So there's different countries that have different like things that they do. But no, I mean in general, like just driving through the U.S., it was just pretty. I mean, driving through the different countries was pretty typical. A lot of mountains and tunnels, like that's kind of like the biggest thing. If I had more time, I would have stopped in more places to really explore off of just the strength of traveling with the car. But I just didn't have the time for it. But yeah, I mean, just pretty typical. Definitely learned a few things about myself in terms of the fact that I just can't, like now when I see a highway and it's like, and it's a while on the highway, I get tired automatically just because I drove so much. So I have a bit of fatigue, but other than that, yeah, it's pretty typical.
We always forget that, like, we're so, I'm gonna say like hypnotized, but we're always around and surrounded by these huge cities, so we think like, oh, everything is like city or suburban. In reality, everything is just kind of mountains and forests. Like, that slowly turns into civilization. But honestly, it's nice to see landscape once in a while, for sure.
For sure. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
100%.
The other thing I wanted to ask before we get into kind of the stuff you're up to, sorry to ruminate on these travels, but like, do you have any fun travel stories or anything interesting to share?
I mean, I died a couple of times. Yeah, I mean, fun. Like, I mean, yeah, like I would say like fun and scary at the same time, but I'll turn it into a bit of a little lesson. But like Croatia, last day Croatia, which was already after all the other countries, is basically I had to go back to Croatia to take my flight from there to Poland, and then from Poland to Israel. Um, Literally like 10 minutes before I'm about to leave the hotel, this guy comes up to us and me and my cousin, he's like, hey, like going to check the sunset. He's Australian and I'm not about to imitate his accent, but he's like, hey, like about to go check out the sunset and jump off some cliffs. I thought this guy was crazy. And would you like to do it? Like before you leave, it's really a cool experience. I've been here for a month and it's like the best thing I like to do here. I was like, you know what? F it, I'll do it. So I kind of just like we drove him and a couple other people with my cousin to this like cliff. And like at first I was like, oh yeah, this is chill. And then this guy's like, all right, well, to park the car here, we gotta go over here. And like I start like climbing, and we're just at this point climbing rocks to get higher and higher. And I'm like this guy's crazy. Where is he taking us? And eventually we got there. We're like at this point where it's just like rocks and there's beautiful water and there's the sunset and then there's my flight on the horizon as well. Because I'm about to miss it. And he's like, "All right, well, I'll start." And the dude just jumps off. I hadn't seen him. I was like, okay." I'm not really that type of guy. And my cousin, at first thought that he was down, and then he saw like the heights, and he started, whatever. But he did it too, and then like everybody slowly started to do it, and I'm like, "Yo, these people are crazy." But now I'm looking at myself and I'm facing this situation where I'm like, well, it's definitely out of my comfort zone, but it's also definitely something that I feel like at the end of the day, I'm going to be happy that I tried it. And at first I'm like, nah, I'm not going to do it. But then like slowly and slowly, I was like, all right. So I looked at it. I look down. I look up. I look down. I look sideways. I look behind me. No one's behind me. And I was like, all right. And so I just did it. I jumped, and it was cool. Like I jumped, and I felt like free for a minute, and then I get into the water. I'm not a good swimmer, so I should have prefaced it with I'm not a good swimmer. Uh, Barely can swim really, and I don't know how to tread. So I didn't really give that much thought. But with that effort mentality, I didn't think about all the things that could happen, which would have made me not do it. But anyways, I got back up, my head's up. I'm like, oh, this is sick. Like this is amazing, and I'm like, all right, great. And that's like 3 seconds, and then like 4 seconds, I'm like, okay, wait, what do I do now? And he's like, oh, well, we could like climb back up and whatever. And I'm looking at the rocks. And I'm like, how the heck am I climbing this back up from the water? And I'm grabbing on it. I'm like, yeah, this is not gonna happen. He's like, well, the only other option is to swim down there to get, it's a little less big, like the rocks. And I'm like, dude, down there it's like 200 feet. I can barely swim. He's like, dude, you're good. You got this. I was like, I got this. It's just him in the water, mind you. And so I'm like, all right, I'm gonna makeshift swim this thing, and I start to swim, but the waves are pretty big, so I'm swimming, and then like I at a certain point, I want to say like halfway through, I gave up. I was like, I can't swim anymore. Like this is it for me. And I'm starting to like gasp, and I'm like, I'm going down. I'm really going down. He's like, he looks at me, and he thought I was joking, I guess, because Australians. And I'm really going down. I'm like, yeah, I'm like really gonna die right now. And I start like yelling at him. I was like, bro, I need your help. And like as soon as I'm like about to go down, he literally like grabs my like two fingers and like holds me up for a second, gave me a little bit of extra like air and dragged me a little bit, but he wasn't going to be able to take me the whole way. And what I basically did is I used all the strength I had to climb up these like mid rocks, like, and I just cut my whole body, but I used all the strength I had to just like pick myself up and just jump on the rocks anywhere to be out of the water. And I look and there's just like a pool of blood around me. It's like from like my arm, my legs, my feet, my abs, like everything. But yeah, that was like I guess the funnest, most scary, memorable experience I had in a long time. But like, to turn it back into like a, I guess, business theme, you could use it. You could really use any life experience and work, in your life to really like relate it to business and to just living. But I guess you have to think about some of the things that you do in business and whether you want to take those risks and whether you want to take a leap. You may be looking down and seeing all the things that could go wrong, but at the end of the day, like you kind of just have to jump, and then once you jump, you deal with everything that comes. But like it's better that way because at the end of the day, look at me, I'm here, I'm good, I'm happy, and I'm talking about this is gonna be a story I'm talking about for the rest of my life. Like this is a success. So you may drown, you may not, who knows? But you will never know if you don't find out. And so yeah, I mean that's one of the memorable things that happened on the trip.
Thank God you survived happy sports world before the end of the season. Definitely
Yeah, I
happy.
wouldn't be able to be on the episode.
Exactly, yeah, for sure. Quick thing before we get into kind of the other ultimate stuff, would you agree that like a lot of being in business or a lot of entrepreneurship is just not, going into it? I think a lot of people have this misconception that oh, you have to know like a million things. Is it more that you have like a base knowledge, but a lot of it's just figuring it out, like a constant commitment to figuring it out?
Yeah, I mean, definitely not about I mean, it's less about what you know, it's more about like who you know. I would say
Mhm.
it's pretty cliche, but it's true. I mean, me going into what I was starting, I thought I knew everything. And then I quickly learned that I didn't know anything really. And that's what it's all about. I mean, you just have to be a sponge, so you soak in those tidbits and the information that you get from the people that you meet. The biggest thing, if you're an entrepreneur, anytime I'm meeting an entrepreneur and I meet someone who's starting a business and I'm assessing whether I want to help them or whether I want to introduce them to somebody or so on or so forth. If I notice or sense that they sound like a know-it-all and they're like, oh, I'm this and I'm that, and I'm like, do you have $1 billion yet? Do you have $10 million even? You don't? Okay. And you know all these things? No, I'm sorry, but like, I'm not going to help you because that's the biggest thing is like, you need to be aware of the fact that you know nothing. Like you need to know when you're in a room with these successful people that you be confident for sure. But there's a fine line between confidence and cockiness, and you need to understand that what they tell you, like they've gone through it. Like you need to really be a sponge and soak it in. So you can't go into things thinking that you know everything because that's a recipe for failure. And so the biggest thing is you may not know anything, but the most important thing is to soak in that information and be confident, meeting other people, taking the information they're willing to give you, using that and not being afraid to say, okay, maybe I have to change a little bit of what I'm doing because that's what happened with me. we really changed up everything that we were doing based off of the fact that somebody who was doing it longer told us we were doing it wrong. We could have, went ahead and said, screw you, we know better when we didn't, and, messed around and found out. But instead we took that and we kind of, just did, altered what we did, and it turned out for the best. So, I mean, I think the most important thing is just like, forget about what you know. It's about what you can learn and who you can meet and what you can get from them, what kind of information. So,
No, I was, chuckle about is, like, the one meme where it's like mess around, find out. It's like
yeah,
you
yeah,
said
yeah,
that.
yeah. But it's a more vulgar term that I didn't want to necessarily do.
No worries. It's just what went into my head. So that was,
I don't know. Is there
I
like
think
a cursing protocol to like a podcast? I just keep it PG for now.
no, we're not. Yeah, I mean, no protocol here, but we don't have to kind of get into politics with that. But it was just like that. The wording was familiar, so I thought it was funny. If anyone wants to, I'm sure it's available on the. No, I think it's a really fair answer. I think a lot of times, like, I think I had another guest on the show, Miss Girl Nina, who actually works with a lot of startups, and she helps them kind of pitch to investors. And she says a lot of the times that like people try to get so bogged down and like so complex and try to like explain everything. Like maybe sometimes like they might have trouble. They might think that they know it all so much that they have trouble explaining something, but in reality, like obviously, that they should be confident in themselves, but a lot of times people can just get a little too compiled or too like they might be so ingrained that like somehow that I don't know if I'm equating it the right way, but somehow like that confidence turns into cockiness, and like when someone doesn't see it their way, they get really upset. So I agree that it's like a fine line of being able or like making sure um that like while you're confident in yourself and you're explaining everything in like a concise manner, you're not being a know-it-all and you're really kind of taking into consideration kind of people's criticism. So
Confidence needs to be in the vision,
yeah,
but
for sure.
never should the confidence be from a place where you think you know more than others. You may, but you can't go into it with that mindset. It really
For
always
sure.
has to be, I'm confident in what I'm building. So if somebody's trying to tear you down, which will also happen, and it may be baseless on their end, you have that confidence where it's like you're building something good, but you can't be cocky to a point where you're like, if someone's like, hey, I just wanted to let you know I saw this and I think you could do this, or hey, da 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 da, and you see that it's a genuine, like, someone genuinely trying to help you. If you come into it saying, like, you're not gonna get better. And to be honest with you, like, if you're not putting yourself in rooms with people who are more successful and more established than yourself, then you're doing it wrong anyways. I like to be the stupidest, poorest, least accomplished person in every room that I go to, especially when it comes to business. Maybe not in a personal standpoint, but like, if I'm going to a business meeting or if I'm meeting with someone for business or if I'm trying to collab with someone, I'm talking to the people that I know are smarter than me. So you better believe I'm not going into it with a cocky mindset where I'm better than them, because I know they're better than me. I know they have more money. I know they're more established. And I know they're more accomplished. And that's kind of like what it's all about. I learn, I grow, I connect, and then what do? They see that I'm willing to learn. They see that I have the mindset of I'm here and I'm thankful to be here. What do? They introduce me to more people that are just like that, and then you start to grow a network. And then once you start to grow that network, you start to see like that it's really true. Like, network is key. Like, network is better than net worth. Like, I mean, yes, if you want to have $1 billion, it doesn't matter who you know. But like, when it comes to like this stage, the early stages, it's so much more important that you know the right people than to have $100,000 in the long term. Like, that's nothing. And like, if I could choose between $100,000 or to be in a room with Mark Zuckerberg, and that's just on like an extreme level, but like to be in a room with like 10 of those guys where they're actually talking to me, I'll take that all day, because if I can genuinely connect with those people, get their phone numbers, get their emails, send them a pitch, get advice. I mean, that's what it's about, because that will really take you to the next level.
Keeps to the Zuckerberg is listening in his free time. Definitely connect with Yoni and let me know. I can connect you guys. So, shout out to me and Zuckerberg, Elon Musk. I think it's really, really interesting. I think a lot of times people like there is not to get to the psychology of it, but people have this obsession of like being the best, being this, being that. But, like you can't just become the best by yourself. Like you have to learn from people and like maybe it's not being the best, but it's like the best version of yourself. And if you keep working on yourself and surrounding yourself with people that really kind of know what they're doing, you can kind of grow that way. But I definitely kind of agree with everything you said there. So kind of another thing to get into, right now you're working on some exciting stuff, but Before we get into that, was there anything else that you were doing before Ultimate Odds, like other stuff you were up to?
Anything else that I was doing like work wise?
Yep.
No, I mean I was in school, so I mean like yes, I was working on growing my real estate portfolio out a bit. Mainly because I had previously worked at a real estate company, didn't like it, and I felt this like need to kind of do what they were doing. And so I like saved up for a property, did that, but that didn't really do much. It was a good path, but I think like I found a better path, and so I kind of just invested all my time and money into what I'm doing now. And I mean, like I'm not just doing Ultimate Odds now, so thankfully I have my hands in a few different things right now, which is cool. So I'm really able to get the best of all different types of categories and spaces and stuff like that. So
Listen, to hear that. So even to the big thing that you're up to, I don't know, I'm gonna say primary business baby, but your first business baby. So kind of, can you tell us why you started that? Ultimately, what is
yeah, for sure. I mean, this was already going on 3.5 years now of starting Ultimate Odds, and so it's been a while. But yeah, I mean, Ultimate Odds is created by me and my co-founder Justin. It was created really as something that we wanted. It started off as a different concept in the beginning, but it kind of just like evolved into what it is now. And to give you like a quick 30-second pitch, I guess you could say. The concept is based around the fact of like let's say it's me, you, and like two other people, or it can jump from two to 1,000 people, but like let's just use me and three other people as an example. We're all buddies. We're gonna watch the game tonight. What is it? Chiefs versus the Lions. And we may not, or some of us may be betting, some of us may not. But if let's say we wanted to get a little bit of a friendly competition between the four of us, I may go, hey Dan, like 40 $50 buy-in, you, Jack, and Max and me, we all put $50 in the pot. We got a quick nice little $200 pot. Winner takes all. Now what happens is everybody has the lineup. So like you have 5 picks, I have 5 picks, Max and Jack have 5 picks. All the 5 picks consist of the same category. So there's like a money line, which is for those who don't know betting and don't understand betting, you basically select who's going to win and who's going to lose. You select how many points the person's going to win by. And then you start to get into like the props, which is basically like, let's just say Patrick Mahomes throws for 200 yards. You say less, I say more, something like that. So you select 5 things, I select 5 things. Everybody has their selections, and then let's say three of the things that I chose were right. All of the things that I chose based off of the difficulty has points associated to it, and so whoever accumulates out of the four of us the most points would essentially win the buy-in, the pot. And what that does is just it's an engaging way to watch a game, have the thrill of winning money and being able to follow along. And then there's the more complex scenarios where you have a public contest that you can do with as many people. You just say, okay, $50 buy-in, and let's see how big we can get the pot. You create your lineup, and whoever wins, again, like same scenario, just with a much more diverse group of people. Whoever wins gets this pot that could go up to as many dollars as people put in. So that's kind of really what the concept is. It's meant for friendly competition. It's meant for a little bit of outside competition. It's meant to help people engage with the sport, keep engaged, because you don't have to hit all the things that you chose. Whereas like if you're placing a sports bet and you lose one, that's it. So like let's say Patrick Mahomes, you need him to have 300 yards, but at halftime he only has 50 yards. You're like your bet's already over, so you're not really engaged at that point, at least from a betting perspective. So this gives you a little bit of more of a prolonged engagement level. It helps with that type of scenario, and it's also good for the type of scenarios where you're in an office setting and all your employees want to join a competition where you're going against everyone in the office. You don't necessarily need to be proficient in betting or in sports. So that's kind of the concept, and so we've really just gone and done that.
Well, I'm not a big, not that I'm not saying against it for it, just not something I'm so involved in. But like overall, I'm not don't have too much knowledge of sports betting. But for someone like me, that was a great explanation. Like I think I could probably pitch that, no pun intended, but pitch that back to you in a clean way. So I think that was a really good way of kind of explaining what Ultimate Odds does, and it sounds like a very simple way of getting people to engage and kind of have friendly competitions with each other. So that's really cool. The other thing to get into, so Ultimate Odds is an app. It's a platform. You're not like a big technical guy, right? Like with the software stuff.
No, 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 no. But
So how?
I've just go ahead, go ahead,
Oh, no, no worries. I
continue.
was gonna say, like, how have you gotten like a lot of the technical software stuff to work, kind of as
Yeah.
being coming from like a non-tech background?
Well, you can use the answer I give you for that question in a broader sense. It's all about how you hire and how you
Mhm.
surround your team. So, like, obviously, I'm not a technical guy, and neither is my partner. We definitely had to get acclimated to like the words and the language and sort of to know a little bit just so that we can know we're hiring correctly. So definitely before you make any hire, try to know the basics of what you're hiring for. And try to always don't be afraid to ask for help. So like I had people like literally help assess who we were going to bring on to the team to help us with this stuff. And essentially really just like we brought on a couple guys, we brought on people to help us with developing the app. And you got to just trial by error, but whether sometimes you may work with the wrong people, sometimes it may be the right people. You kind of have to just gauge. And so we kind of just leaned on the people around us to make sure that we made the right additions to the team, and that sort of helped propel our technical foundation, at least for Ultimate Odds.
Awesome, cool. No, it's really, really great to hear. I think a lot of times people like, have these app ideas, product ideas, but they don't have the technical and the engineering background. I think it's a great thing that you hired right. You had a loose vision of what you wanted it to look like. Maybe if you didn't know like the coding behind it, you hired someone for it. Still found a way, not an excuse to get it done. So kudos to you on that, Yoni. Another thing to get
Appreciate it.
into it all. How would you describe the business model? So the best way that kind of you guys make money.
When you say business model, I mean like what, like how we make money, like revenue wise, type of stuff like that.
Revenue wise, yep.
Yeah, I mean, well, really what it is the pools. So like when you create that contest, so like I'll go back to the scenario where everybody, four of us put $50 in. That's a $200 pot, right? But we get 10%. So there's a 10% holding fee, I guess you could say, or like a rake. And so 10% would be $20. So like we would get $20 out of the 200. So winner would get 180 and we would get 20. We would pay out our payment processor, which is basically how we were able to collect the funds. And that would be our revenue just for that at least. And so that gets bigger, smaller based off of how many people join. So if it's a $100,000 pot and we get 10%, now we're starting to get into some better numbers. And so it's just really based off of how much money is coming in and going out. But that's just one of the main ways. And then obviously you can, monetize doing other things. But that's how we wanted to do it originally.
Okay. Do you see, speaking of that last point, do you see any revenue streams in the future? Or you guys just really focused on this
I mean, yeah, of course, but nothing that I'd be willing to just like say for sure set in stone. So like there's definitely ways to do it. It's just a matter of let's gauge and see how this works. Um, I think I'm worried about making money, but at the same time, I'm more worried about making a product that people enjoy. Because if you can get the people, you can get the money. So it's really just about let's build this product. Let's get something that people enjoy to use, and then let's worry more about how we. I mean, let's don't get it twisted. I mean, we have a very efficient, one of the best ways to make money. I mean, our scenario is win-win no matter what. We can't lose on a competition, right? Whereas a betting company that's taking bets can lose if someone wins a bet and they have to pay them out. They lose. We don't lose. We're getting that 10% regardless. So it's definitely a good way. But I first want to build a product that draws the crowd, and then I'll worry about monetizing it within that. So not really, it's definitely a priority, but not at the top of the list. I care more about our customers, our users, and their experience.
I think that's a good way to see it too. Because I think a lot of times, a lot of people I've spoken with say, if you care, if you just worry about the people, like adding a lot of value to them, then all the money will follow. So I definitely think kind of, I certainly don't run your business, but as an outside, kind of as an outside friend or advisor, I definitely think it sounds like you're doing everything the right way. So it's great to
For
hear.
sure. Thank you.
As an entrepreneur, you definitely have, I imagine, a lot of challenges you face day to day. Probably juggling a zillion tasks to get through. Kind of, what would you say are some of the biggest challenges you face on a day-to-day basis running your own thing?
On a day, you mean challenges that I face on a day to day, or challenges that I face in general?
Whichever you think is more important to your business.
They're all important. All challenges. I will say that there's definitely day-to-day challenges. Nothing that I'm gonna just like go ahead and just like give the details, but I will say like definitely when dealing with the challenges that that you have as a startup, the most important thing is to keep your head level. So don't make irrational decisions, right? It's so easy to like run into a problem and to just freak out and to just do something that may not be, well thought out, well thought out. So it's really important to use your resources. So if I run into an issue, the first thing I do is I'll hit up my partner and I'll hit up my advisors. Those are people that aren't in our business, but they are at the same time. So they're not as stressed out as I am, so they can think a little bit more straight. Always use your resources. If you don't have an advisor, then talk to your closest friend. If you don't have a close friend, then talk to your parents. If you don't have parents, then talk to, you know what I'm saying? Like you just have to use whoever is around you. And that's important that before you even run into these problems, it's important that you had that sort of support system to start. Without support system, I wish you the best of luck. So it's important that you have that support system and that you use that support system. So all those daily issues that we run into, whether it's raising capital in an extremely tough market, a volatile market, or whether it's, customer service or the app or developing anything really or budget. It's just important that you understand that every problem has a solution. It's just a matter of taking the time to find it and to do it the most efficient way. Don't rush, don't stress. Stress is a part of business, but it's also a part that ruins business. You have to really take in, the moment and understand, okay, here's the problem. Let's relax for a second. Let's figure out how to do this together. So listen, I'm not going to tell you that it's all sunflowers and, it's not all just like green grass. There's a lot of stuff that gets in the way. I don't know the wording for it, but it's just about how you decide you want to approach it. And I think, advice to anybody and advice to myself is really just everything will work itself out. You just need to be, just use your head. And so like, we definitely encounter challenges and obstacles. I think, like I said, it's important to just be able to take the time to figure it out.
Awesome. I think that's fair. A lot of times people get stressed, and I think maybe more advanced or we've seen going through a lot of these issues. Stress is a big time waste. When you're stressed and you're paralyzed, like you don't do anything. So it's natural to feel stressed, but then you have to kind of be decisive and then think about the way to get to a solution. So
Yeah, I
definitely
mean,
agree with you.
yeah, and don't be afraid to get creative. Definitely have gotten out of some jams with creativity.
Definitely for sure. Appreciate that. The note on that. One of the things you mentioned is that you have kind of people to reach out to. When you have issues like this, what role would you say that kind of mentors and mentorship have played in kind of your development, and just your role, your kind of
The biggest,
development?
the biggest. I mean,
Mm.
I've had some people really help me more than I can imagine. I mean, I'll I'll say without some of the people that we put around us, I don't know if there would have been a way for us to get to where we are now and to get to where we're going and vice versa. So, shout out to those people. There's definitely some people that stand out more specifically, and there's guys that believed in us earlier on rather than later. And, there's people like I can name drop people, and I can tell you that these are the guys that have helped us the most. But like there's, for example, there's a guy named Benji Cherniak. He's one of our advisors and investors. I go to him like literally anytime there's an issue. I go to him for anything, and like to think that his reward is minimal compared to the time that he puts in is it's like I feel like I owe him more than I give him. So it's like those types of people. There's the guy Seth Young, one of the guys that we came to when we first started this whole thing, who nobody believed in us at this point, and he didn't believe in us at first until I listened to what he said and I came back to him with a better idea, and he's like, damn, this is good. Like he's helped us from literally like the first stepping stone. Um, and then there's my family, my parents, my mom, my dad, like my cousins, everybody who supported us, on the way there. But like definitely the advisors have really been key, and I think it was one of the best ideas I've ever had. Was just like bringing along these advisors, and so I'm so happy and so thankful. Win or lose, I feel like I gained so much. Forget the money for a second. Like I feel like I've gained so much experience from business, not just from business though. I learned a lot in life from these guys and from just like how to handle things and how to carry myself. And so to answer your question, that's kind of the importance of just having the right system and knowing that you have those people to ask them at any point, for help.
Yes, and I think it's a good answer there. Good to have people ultimately building your network, creating a good product to go to. So definitely really resonate with that. Last thing I'll get into regarding ultimate odds. I know you've been running the company what, 2 3 years now, a little longer.
At least 3 years, yeah. December
Yeah,
2020.
that's the life of an entrepreneur. You kind of forget the age of your thing. You're like it's been at least 3 years. Great to
Long
hear
time.
that. Do you yeah, where do you see kind of ultimate odds going in the next 5 to 10 years? Like, do you just see this growing out, maybe kind of getting acquired one day, or is that for now, you're just kind of
Uh, let's leave that TBD.
TV? Okay, yeah.
I mean, listen, I want to build it to get to be as big as possible, and I want to make
Mhm.
the best possible product for our users.
Mhm.
Um, and I'll let the rest I'll let the rest,
Fun.
sort of, yeah, I'll let it just come out and uh, present itself when it, at the appropriate time. I don't know. It's just, with the markets and everything, like to predict 5 to 10 years, I'm trying to predict tomorrow. So it's like, it's hard. But as an entrepreneur, you have to be a little bit naive. So I'll say, unicorn in the next 5 to 10 years.
Gotta definitely good celebration. So what a good way to like kind of summarize that, be like right now you're just really focused on creating a great product, and whatever road that leads down is whatever road that leads down
Yeah, but definitely more
to.
focused on tomorrow than I am for 10 years. I want to get the present. I want to get the best product possible for our users.
That's awesome. Before I move on, the one thing I'll add quickly that's kind of funny. So I'm sure what investment bankers do, but a lot of times when they try to value a company, they try to predict as like outside advisors what the company's going to be worth in 10 years. When in reality, like they're not the people running it. So definitely a funny note that I wanted to mention there. But no, totally appreciate that. I was about to say ultimate what you're doing with Ultimate Odds. Awesome what you're doing with Ultimate Odds. Wish you the best of luck and only great things as you continue to build that. But as you mentioned earlier, you said you had your hands kind of in a few other things, and I see your hat is kind of representing one of them. Are there any other projects that you're actively involved in that you want to mention?
Yeah. This is so I've always been into like fashion and that type of stuff, and so this is Mesquite Originals. It's a company that I've had the pleasure of meeting the founders of, and you know I'm graciously involved in the project now. It's really a cool. It's I mean it definitely relates, and it's something that hits home for me. But it's a cool project that's been around for more than 20 years, longer than I've been alive, honestly. So it's a project that I'm so excited to be a part of now. So basically, it's a clothing brand, a luxury streetwear brand that's based from art, and so the art is what creates the clothes, and so each piece is unique because it's been painted, and so hand painted, and so within hand paint you can't recreate the same painting, so it's all unique, it's one of one. And I got the chance to meet the founders, and then they brought me along, and it's so cool. I mean, so basically like they in like the early 2000s were one of the biggest clothing brands or streetwear brands out there. Like you think Supreme, you think let's say like Amiri, or you think like any of those brands, you think Mesquite as well in that same sentence, at least at that time period. And 2008 happened, the crash and all that stuff, and so one thing led to another. But I've definitely believe that with the right pieces, the right clothes, the right idea, and the right, support system in this brand, I think we can get right back to where we were. And so that's kind of what I'm here for. I'm here for the ride. I think like definitely super excited to see where that goes. A lot of potential there. Used to work with some of the biggest brands, worked with LeBron James, DJ Khaled, Chris Brown, like all those names, Diddy, like all those names that you can think of. We worked with them, and so it was really ingrained in the culture. And so really important to see that through, and so definitely excited for that, and so it's something that I'm doing as well. I wouldn't even say on the side. I'm just able to, I'm trying my best to not have much of a social life. I obviously just told you about my travels, but within the travels, that was kind of just to open my mind and to really just take a little break from everything so I can get back in the lab. But when I get back home, I'm not really doing much. Really trying to grow both brands, networking, connecting, and that type of stuff. But this brand is so cool. I mean, shirts, hats, pants, like all the different stuff, and like it just brings together art and clothes. And I think both of those things are timeless things. Like art is timeless, and obviously fashion is timeless. I mean, it isn't timeless where fashion changes over time, but it's timeless in the sense where everybody will always be into fashion. Um, so super cool project, and I can't wait to show people more, I guess, behind the scenes and stuff like that of what we're working on. Definitely not there yet where we want to be, but give it a couple months, give it, a little bit of time, but we'll be there, and it'll definitely be something that makes a bit of a boom.
Awesome. Well, definitely. I know there's like an Instagram. Include that link in the description. To check it out or check it out. It's called
Yeah, for
Mesquite,
sure.
right?
Miskeen,
Mesquite.
Miskeen. Originals. Yep.
Sounds good. So I'll include that if anyone wants to check it out. It sounds like an awesome brand. Definitely wish you the best of luck with that. And well, just to get into the last few things here, so right now, and as you mentioned earlier, you're in Israel, so you're a proud Jewish guy. How would you say you connect with your Judaism, kind of balance that out, or connect it with your business?
Yeah, I mean, it's super important. At the end of the day, like all of this is thanks to God. So that's like just one of the biggest things. I don't think anything would have happened if it wasn't for having faith in God and God's plans. And so super important to keep that faith and keep that, that energy really. It's like I try my best, and there's always more that you can do, but it's something that you need to just keep around you the whole time. Like you're understanding that this isn't just you doing this. Like this is the hand of God. And so I think, and I attribute that to my mom and my dad for really instilling that sort of mindset in me from a young age. I'm not perfect in any sense when it comes to this, but it's something that's always in the back of my mind. It's something that I can never forget, and so I think it's important to never forget, never to get caught up in the moment. Like, oh, you're doing this, you're doing that, but take a second to understand. All right, like all of this is thanks to one. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's an energy behind it. It's not like you have to really take that time and to thank God and to pray and to just understand that it's not just you doing this. And so don't get caught up in the moment. Like it's so easy to get caught up in all the the lifestyle, the celebrities, the parties, like all that stuff, the business, the success, the failures. But just take a second, think about it, thank God, pray to God, praise God, and you'll all it'll all get figured out. And so I think that's just the fundamentals. It's the foundation of everything that we're doing. So to be here right now is great, but you got to keep that energy everywhere you are.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, right after this show, I'm gonna go put on. I just not to get too into my morning routine, but I wasn't didn't have time to put on tefillin this morning. So after this show, I appreciate you reminding me. So I'll definitely get into that. So I feel like you can do a mitzvah for the day. But I really like your answer because I think it reminds us, that we're all honestly so small in this world. We're all, it's a simple world, and at the end of the day, a lot of the times, kind of we try to complex it down. In reality, we're just here to do the best we can, and whatever Hashem lets us do is whatever Hashem lets us do.
100%.
Totally. Awesome. So just two other things to ask really quickly. You have a really cool and awesome story with Ultimate Odds and kind of your world travels and everything you've been up to, and wish you continued success with that. But outside of that, what would you say brings you happiness?
Family, sports, family and sports really. Fashion, but obviously I work in it too. So and I work in sports, so it's like, it's really like that and music. Really, just like what brings me happiness. Spending time with family and friends, traveling, seeing the world, meeting new people. That's kind of like my biggest thing. Like I like to just enjoy life, try new things, like keeping an open mind. Like I think as I get older, I start to really just want to do more things that are out of my comfort zone. I think that's where like you really get that thrill. And so just like exploring the world and just enjoying myself and taking the time to relax and not thinking too much about everything.
Got it. So family, sports, travel, friends, enjoy that. Yes, but it was a really good business answer. But awesome, great to hear that. And last thing I'll get into, you've been fortunate enough for being able to share a lot of stuff with us today. Is there anything else that you want to share? Whether it's life advice, relationship advice, people advice. Floor is yours, Yoni.
uh, Honestly, I think you can kind of just use what I said beforehand. That's all my inspiration. Like I don't want to get too much into it. But feel free to anybody who's watching this, like feel free to watch out. I mean to reach out, not watch out. Feel free to reach out, ask any questions. Don't be afraid. Never be afraid to ask a question or a favor of anybody. Obviously have boundaries, but never be afraid to just like step out of your comfort zone. That's the biggest thing, and just have an open mind. Keep keep trying to do whatever like speaks to you. If something brings you happiness, like don't let anybody's opinion or anybody's, hesitancy, obviously listen to them, but don't like listen to what they're saying and take their words lightly depending on what they say and who they are. But don't let, someone telling you can't do this, and this is so cliche, but it's so true. Like if I could if I can get $1 for every time someone told me I couldn't do what I'm doing or I can't do what I'm doing, I would be even richer. And so really just keep doing what brings you happiness. And if there is something that you're passionate and good at, trust me, there's a way to monetize and make money off of it and create a career from it. So don't be afraid to just do that. And so just like that's kind of my biggest advice. I don't really have relationship advice other than just, find, what makes you happy, find who makes you happy, who supports you. It's important. A quick story, not name dropping anybody here at all, but I had a buddy who he had this like big opportunity across the country or in a whole other country for to meet these people, but he's in a relationship and the opportunity is at a party. And so obviously that gets a little tricky, but his girlfriend actually was like the reason he went because she's like, you have to go. That's the type of people you want to be around. People that really encourage you to do things that are going to advance your career and advance your life. So cut out the energy that the people that are jealous, the people that, they'll always be there. But if you don't got haters, they're not popping. So just remember that.
I think it's a great part of it. But Yoni, man, look, you're a great friend, dope kid, and awesome guest, and really appreciate you taking the time to go on the show.
I appreciate it, Daniel. Thank you. But also just amazing what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing, and see like you listen to the advice that didn't even tell you. You just stepped into it, and you're doing some amazing things, and you're gonna keep doing it. I'll be here for the ride, and awesome, awesome, awesome stuff.
Appreciate it. Hopefully this is, I think, episode number 13, episode number 14. Hopefully we'll have you for episode 114. So
There you go.
we'll get
BH, yes sir.